Hi guys, welcome to this video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to roll out the calves, and we're going to be doing them 360. So I'm going to show you the back, the sides, and the front, and we're also going to throw in a little bit of footwork at the end there. There are a few muscles in the calves that attach into your foot, so in order to do a complete job you do want to get a little bit of foot work done as well. So let's get started. I'm going to show you what tools you're going to need. I have a few things around me and I'll briefly explain what they're all for, and then as the video progresses you'll see it in action. So if you're new to rolling, I would suggest just picking up a tennis ball. This is very affordable and you can find it anywhere, and it'll just get you started. But if you happen to already have some massage balls that you've collected over the years, then you can definitely use these guys. I would suggest having a few different sizes: a baseball, lacrosse ball, even golf balls. This is more a golf ball size. You want to get balls that have a bit more grip to them. There's a bit more of a friction with these guys as opposed to something like this, which is very smooth. So I don't use this, I just use this to demo what not to get, which is, this is very firm, it's a good ball, it's just very slippery. And so you can't really pin something with this because it'll just slide right out. So you want to avoid something like this. If you have a roller type massage tool like this, that's awesome. I picked this up a long time ago from like a massage supply store, and it looks like a rolling pin, but it has these ridges. And it took me some time to work up to being able to use this, because these are very painful actually when you're first getting started. As you progress with the rolling though, you will get used to something like this because it's gonna penetrate into the tissue even deeper. So you're actually gonna have an advantage with these ridges. But initially it's very uncomfortable because you're tight on the surface level. So what I suggest instead of something like this is just a rolling pin in your kitchen. If you have a wooden one or pick up one from the dollar store, that's an amazing tool. And I recommend something like this that's quite a small circumference versus the foam rolling. I generally don't recommend foam rolling for rolling at all, actually, because it's too high off the ground. If you notice how high it sits, so it kills the leverage and the weight of the limb, because it's going to be elevated and at an angle compared to how you're going to be lying. And it's such a big circumference that you're actually just placing your calf on something that's relatively flat versus a ball, which allows you to get 360 in an area. And the smaller the surface area that you're using as a tool, the more effective it's going to be. This is going to be very general, and it's kind of just a waste of time, to be honest. I rarely ever use a foam roller to roll my body. I always use something smaller. This is good as a hello. It's good to wake up the tissue if you're about to do some activity like a sport, or you're running or something. It's really good at the end of an activity if you just want a general kind of pressure and a flush. But I don't generally recommend this for rolling at all. The other thing you're going to want to have handy is some pillows, just to support your head when you're lying on the floor, either on your back or your sides. So I always have these handy. If you don't need a pillow, that's fine. That's totally your preference. You can be flat, you can be, using your arm, but I generally find this really, really helpful, because once you're on the ground, you're going to want to stay there for a while, and you might be down on the floor rolling out for 15, 20, 30 minutes. So it's nice to be comfortable. As you can see, I'm on a carpet. I often will roll on a carpet as opposed to a hardwood floor. But if you don't have carpets or a rug or anything, then just put down a yoga mat. You can put a blanket and then a yoga mat, just to give you a bit more of a cushion and give you a bigger working space. And then I would recommend a stool, if you have this handy, a stool that has square legs, because you're going to be using the ridge of this leg, and it's really awesome for the sides, and I'm going to show you later how I use this. And if you don't have something like this, but you do have, let's say, like a kitchen stool, then this is what this is. I'm just showing you, and I'll be showing you in the video how to use this versus this as well. This also has a ridge, but the legs are oriented a little differently, and I'll be talking about that later. So I'll show you how to use something like this if you already have it and you don't want to invest in something extra like this. But if you ever come across a stool that's round and has square legs, I would highly recommend it for the rolling work. The other thing to keep in mind with rolling is that it initially does hurt. And this is feedback I get from clients a lot, that they tried it and it hurt too much, so then they stopped doing it. And what I would suggest is that you stick with it. Even if you have to just do little bits at a time and get yourself used to the sensation, because it is quite intense and it can be very sharp. Do little bits at a time and just keep going and stick with it. And you can distract yourself with your phone, with a book, with watching TV, with a movie. You can be talking to a friend. You can have music playing, or you can just, be in silence and just be doing a lot of deep breathing. But whether you distract yourself or not, always do the deep breathing and take a few deep breaths into the pain. Let the limbs settle and see where it takes you. Generally speaking, the pain will go down and it will become more bearable within 1, 2, 3 breaths. But stick with it, because what you're doing is wherever the fascia is very tight, you're going to have trapped nerve endings in there, and there's not a lot of movement. And now you're introducing pressure into where the tissue is already adhered and stuck. So of course it's going to be uncomfortable. But once you allow the limb to settle in and the pressure and the weight of your leg to do the work, it's really going to start to soften that section over time as you keep doing this work. Generally speaking, you're going to have less tension in the area. It's going to decompress your joints, and it's going to give you a greater range of motion, particularly in the ankle. Okay, so the first part we're going to get is the back. You're going to grab one of these guys. So start with something that's kind of bigger, right? And you're going to put it underneath the calf, and you're just going to move and roll around until you hit something that is particularly uncomfortable. So right about there, I can feel that more, but not a whole lot. So what I'm going to do is put my other foot on top and really just allow the legs and the weight of the legs to sink into that ball, and just work and apply that pressure to soften. The other thing you can do is keep that leg on there and do a kind of what's called a pin and stretch. So you're going to move the ankle and the foot while you apply that pressure. So it's pressing into the calf, and you're moving, and what you're doing is you're opening and stretching out those fibers as the ball is pressing. So you're getting even more effect where that pressure point is. So that can increase the intensity a lot. And then for me, I'm feeling more of it kind of in here. So I'm just moving around a little bit to get right into this one. Now this hurts a lot more. So if you want to know if you're on the right point, you want to look for points that are the most uncomfortable, because where there's the most pain is actually where the tissue is the most adhered, and you want to soften that. So if you have a few pain points, like all of it hurts, for example, then pick the one that is the highest pain point if you can handle it, and then just breathe. Just hang out and breathe. Each point you want to hold for about a minute or two. So now I'm moving down lower toward my ankle, and I'm getting more where the muscle starts to turn into more of a tendon, right? So it's going to get a little bit more intense the lower down you go, for sure. And right about there is good for me, and I'm just going to hang out there. And breathe and let that pressure work. So it's really just dead weight and time. You're just waiting. You're waiting until it decreases a little bit, or you've held it for at least a minute or two, whatever comes first. Sometimes people feel numbness start. Sometimes people feel shooting pain go down lower, or maybe even up the leg. That's fine. The numbness, once it starts to go numb, then you can get off of that point if that's enough. And if you feel that shooting pain, hold it for a little bit longer than you would think, because you don't want to wake up what's called a trigger point and then just come off of it, because now you've activated it. So you actually want to hold that for a little bit longer, allow that charge to dissipate, which it usually does, and then move on to the next point. So if that's you, just hang in there and compress it a little bit more, breathe, and let the ball do its job. And so I want something really good here. And now I'm just going to start to get into the side a little bit. If you notice, I'm just kind of turning my leg a little bit out, because I want to get the back section of tissue, but from the side more. So I'm kind of coming in on the side, because that's where I'm just sort of intuitively feeling it. But again, you just play around with it. This is the beauty of the ball, because it's this shape as opposed to this shape where it's just, you can only really go up and down with this. But with a ball, you can go 360. So that's the beauty of the ball and why it's so awesome, because you can really get different angles with the ball shape rather than like a tube. Okay, so that's enough for that leg. You would want to do at least 2 or 3 points or more if you've got the time, and hold it for about a minute, and then move on to your other leg. You can also use the stool to get the back of the calf. So you go on your back, and let me see, I'll do it this way. You move back a little bit, and you can also use this angle to scrape the whole back of your calf. And again, when you hit something that is particularly uncomfortable, like right there, that's quite sharp, I'm gonna just press in there and allow that pressure to go into the calf. So this stool is an alternative to using one of these balls and sitting up against the couch. If you find this is more comfortable for you, you're more relaxed rather than sitting, then go for it. It's just as effective. You can also get the different angles this way as well. It's a little bit higher, so if people have, back strain sitting, this is great because you're just flat. Your neck is supported, your head is comfortable. If it was a bit cooler in the room, you could put a blanket on top of you. You could watch a movie, you could watch the TV, whatever, right? So this is a very, very comfortable way to get the job done. And you can also play around with angles, like how you turn your leg. You're going to hit different parts of the same section of muscle. And so you can get really specific this way. I'm just going to show you the difference with this big stool. So the reason I love this stool so much and why I've kept it around for all these years is because when it's flat, the angle is exactly pointing toward the ceiling. So I get this ridge right where I need it to do the work. But if you look at this stool, it's still okay if this is all you have, but notice the ridge is on the side. So, and the flat part is pointing toward the ceiling. So you can still use it, like you can, if this is all you had, you could, try to work with this type of stool, but it's not the same as this one that has that ridge right in the right angle. So in this case, I would be using more of the bottom of the leg of the stool to be doing what I need it to do, right? So I can still do this, but if I go here, there's really nothing to press in and really get that like that good effect on the muscle. So now we're going to move on to the sides of the calves. We're going to do the outside and the inside. I'm going to show you with the ball and with a roller type thing. And then I'm going to show you what I do with the stools. And you can pick whatever works for you. And you're going to put that down. And then you're going to put the calf on there. And you can start off kind of supporting yourself a bit higher and roll around and get a feel of the entire section and see where is it the most uncomfortable for me, right? So you can either roll around like this, or you can roll around and put more pressure and actually move your whole body. So you can play around with that. Now for me, it's bad kind of mid-range. Right here, it's very sharp for me. So this is where I'm gonna park it, and I'm just gonna lie down on the pillows. This is why the pillows are great, because it's just really comfortable. And again, you're just going to hang out there. I'm just going to sort of teeter back and forth just to break that up a little bit. And the other thing I can start to do is just give it a little bit of a stretch by moving my ankle inward and then relaxing it. So I'm pulling on the point that I'm pinning with this roller. And you're just going to hang out and breathe. Now, if you find just lying here, you need a little bit of stimulation, or you want to distract yourself, you can always be on your phone. You can be talking on your phone. You can be reading. You can be watching TV if it's here. You can be, looking at your laptop. You can be doing something that, if you were going to be static anyway, it's what I said earlier. You can use that time to roll out your body so that you don't have to find extra time to do this. Okay, now that point's pretty good. That actually decreased really quick for me for some reason. So I'm going to move on to the next one, which is just a wee bit lower down, and I can definitely feel that. And breathe. And just let that roller work. You would be doing the same exact thing with this ball as well. So if you were using this, same concept, you'd be finding the point and you'd be parking it. If I wanted to get really, really specific, I would move to this really small ball and kind of get in there. And now that feels a lot more intense for me. So, if I wanted to really get in there, I would use that a little bit more. And then now what you're going to do is we're going to do the inside. So one leg goes on the legs, the other one goes on top, and now you're going to use that corner here to kind of work through this whole intersection of your calf. I'm going to go through and go through the whole section and figure out, okay, where does the work need to happen? Where am I the most tight and sore and tender? And for me, it's right about here. Okay, as soon as it hits that section, I can really feel that. It's intense. And so what I can do is I hook my foot against that far leg, and I use that to leverage and press down into that tight tissue. And I just breathe. And if I want less intensity, I can kind of just relax my foot more and just let the weight of the leg. But if I want to really press in a bit further, I angle my leg deeper in, and my foot provides just that right leverage to really press in. Same concept. I'm going to hang out there. I'm going to give it a little time, at least a minute. And that intensity definitely has gone down. And then I'm going to go to the next section. Now keep in mind, the inner calf is one of the most tender tender parts of the body. It doesn't get treated very often when you're going for massage and whatnot. But there's quite a lot of tenderness in this section, and you're also getting the back muscles of the calf, but from the inside. So you're getting a different angle on those muscles, and it's definitely intense, definitely painful. So now I'm kind of moving all the way up. And you can also get a little bit of the back side too. So it's not straight side here, it's a little bit over here. So you can also play around with that, right? And if you find like you want to get even more specific, I go to the edge, the bottom of that leg, and I just angle it like so that this corner is going right into where I need it to go, right? So that's the other thing that you can do with this stool. So you can get right in there, find the spot. There it is. And I'm just going to park it and hang out. So now we're doing the front of the calf. I generally like to use the smallest ball possible for this. But if you're new to this, you might want to use something a little bit bigger, or you use the rolling pin. You're going to find where your shin is, and it's going to be the muscle that runs alongside on the outside. So you're not pressing on the bone, but you're going right along, almost where the attachment is, right through here, and then this whole muscle belly. And this is really firm on most people. This is the muscle called tibialis anterior that flexes your foot up. So every time you take a step, this is working. So it's really hard on almost everybody. If you're a runner, even more so. And that's why runners get the shin splints, because it gets so tight and then it tears right where the attachments are. It's really painful. Even if you're walking and hiking for a long time, you might get a burning sensation through here. So you're gonna find all kinds of pain points here. Some of these points can also shoot down. I'll be talking about what to do if you feel that. So you're gonna be in this position where you are in this kind of a crouched position. So your legs are back and your ankle is flat. Now, this can be challenging if you don't have ankle range. If your ankles can't do this, then you can't really do this, because if they're bent like this, then you're losing the contact, right? So you could use a bigger ball in that case and still get it with a big ball. So try the big ball, see if that works for you, see if that feels good. Now I can definitely feel that in this position with the ankle bent like this. So give that a try. If you are able to use something smaller, like a tennis ball like that, which is pretty good, then go for that. You know, and then you lean in. If you notice what I'm doing there, you lean in and you just move around and assess, okay, where do I feel the most pain? So right here on me, which is kind of like the highest point here, I definitely feel that, right? So I'm going to spend about a minute just applying that pressure and just sinking in. And this is it. This is what I'm doing. If your ankle is more bent, then your ankle will be up like this, and you know, you can definitely still feel that. It's just a little bit more uncomfortable on your toes, I guess. I will be showing you how to do this part of your calf standing using a stool or a table or a counter. So for the people that this is really uncomfortable, or maybe you've got a knee issue or your hips, then standing will be easier for you. You can still get this area. And the other section that I felt on me that's really bad in this part of the calf is a little bit more mid-level. So right there, that's really uncomfortable. So I'm just going to hang out there for a minute, just roughly a minute and a half, 2 minutes sometimes, if you know, you're really feeling it let go, and you're just going to be breathing and you're just going to be relaxing into it. And then at the end, what you can do is use something like the roller and just flush it out with the roller now, and just kind of, you know, get it moving. And it feels really, really good. Of course, you can use the smaller ball. So this is even more intense than the bigger ones, right? So it's the same idea. You just might have to move around a little bit more, but the small ball is extremely specific. So you're gonna feel a big difference in intensity from this versus this, because it's just so much smaller. So you're getting a really concentrated point versus a much bigger point with this guy, right? So that's why you want to have the different sizes. One of the things I would caution you about with the front of the calf and the side, when we get to that, is if you have had previous ankle injuries or breaks in any of the bones down here. If you've ever sprained your ankle, for example, there's going to be a residual scar tissue, right? There always is with injury. So what I would caution around the front and sides is you don't go too far down into these regions, because especially the outside musculature, it provides a lot of stability for the ankle. And you don't want to wake up and aggravate something that is now stable. And you don't have pain, you don't have any issues, and now you go in and you do some really intense pressure through the front tendons or the sides, it can start to flare this. And the reason I know that is because I've done this before. I've gotten a little bit too enthusiastic, shall we say, about doing this. And then I end up flaring something, and then I have to calm it down and, you know, just give it some TLC and it's back to normal. But it takes a few days, and it can slow you down in other areas of your life if you're dealing with irritated old scar tissue. So just a little bit of caution there. Go about midway, maybe about here to here, and just kind of work this section, but work a lot more gentle down here, or less time, you know, just do a few points, see how you respond, and then progress as you go along. So if you are having trouble on the floor getting the front of the calf in that kind of crouched position, you're going to use a stool or anything in your house where you've got this edge here. So that can be like a square table, or a stool, or even the counter of bathroom counters are really great as well, where the sink is. Those are a little higher if you can get your leg up there. And what you're going to do is you're going to scrape that corner along this section of your calf. You're going to go along, start kind of lower down, and then support yourself so that, you know, you're not straining your back to do this. And then you're going to move and slide down. You're going to scrape that section down until you hit something that's particularly uncomfortable. So it's the same idea. You're going to allow the body to tell you where it needs you to land, depending on how much restriction and pain you feel, because that's where the tissue's the most stuck, right? So it's the same concept no matter where you're working. And so I'm going to park it right there, because I can feel that quite intensely. I also feel a little bit of that shooting down into my foot. So I'm on a bit of a trigger point, what's called the trigger point again. So I'm not going to move much. I'm just going to allow the weight of my body against that point along the edge here to do the work. And my job is just to breathe and try to relax into that as much as possible. And you're going to want to hold it for about a minute. You don't want to come off these points too quickly, especially if they're shooting or transferring pain anywhere. So I'm just going to hang out there. You can also sort of keep contact with that point, and then just kind of wiggle around until you hit just slightly different angle of it. So right there, I just made a minor little shift, and I can feel that a lot more intensely. So again, I'm just going to hang out there. This whole section could use a lot of work. Keep breathing, breathe it out. And then once you've held that for enough time, or either that shooting will decrease a little bit, or overall the point itself won't be so tender anymore, then you can move down and go to the next point. So I already found the next one. It's not far away for me, but maybe on you it will be. So you'll go a little bit higher, closer to your knee, and you're going to get the next point. And it's the same thing. You just repeat it again. You just hang out there again. Let the body sink into that. Give it a little time. And then once enough time has passed, you can then move on to the next. And that's the basic idea. And you can go all the way up to here. So it's basically from here to here, this is all fair game. And when you're done, what you can do is just scrape it all the way, and that'll be like a flushing kind of movement for you. It'll flush out that tightness overall. And the other thing you can do is turn your foot in a little bit, just to give that a stretch as you make that motion. The one thing about the muscle in this part of the leg is it's very difficult to stretch, particularly if you don't have good range in your ankle. The muscle is responsible for flexing your foot up. And so if you can't point your toe and go out like this, it's difficult to stretch. And even when I'm doing that, I've got good range down here. I don't feel this at all. What I'm feeling more is the pull through the foot. So that's why this area gets so hard on everybody, because there isn't a whole lot of opportunity to stretch it, just because of what's going on with the joint and where it's located in the body. So it really does need either massage, acupuncture, or something like what I'm showing you guys. You can also use one of those Theragun things that, kind of pound it and soften it that way. But nothing beats that kind of weight and pressure into that tight muscle, and then just letting that pressure soften the tissue. Okay, so for the final part of this, you're going to want to just do a little bit in the foot if you have the time. And you can really play around with which of these you use, okay? So the smaller the ball, the more intense it's going to be. If you want to just do something general, you can just go with the old faithful tennis ball. And, you're just going to be working the foot as you hang on to something. You can also use a wall, you can use a chair, whatever works for you. And you just kind of roll out the foot and just work the foot. And when you find something that feels a little bit more snug, a little bit firmer, then just hang out there. And same concept, you're just gonna wait a little bit and work it a little bit. You can do little circles in that area and just kind of massage it in, type of thing. If you want to get a little bit more specific, you feel like it's not quite getting it, you can go to the smaller ball and it'll get right in there. It'll be way more intense. And then if you find the balls uncomfortable in general, you can just use the rolling pin as well. That would work really well, whether it's got the ridges or it's a smooth one. It's really up to you. But that'll just connect the whole calf. It has a really good effect on the foot, and it just completes the session of the calf work.